making films, making art, making anything should be and is a political act. It's a privilege to be making films that can still matter. See the hope in humanity though, and I long for it to come back. Only other very big impact that I was trying for is to bring back the politics that's in the book, and the politics that is sadly raging in our country today.
Literature comes to life with our imagination and films at the right moment. Welcome back to another session of OLF2020. Indian parents armed with the right number of religions are always in the search of the suitable boy, even in the 21st century. But thanks to Mira Nair, you need to look no further than BBC and now Netflix. Nair, an Indian-American filmmaker based in New York City, owns the production company Mira Films, which specializes in films for international audiences on Indian society. Among her best-known films are Mississippi Masala, Kama Sutra, A Tale of Love, The Namesake, Monsoon Wedding, and Salam Bama. Kaveri Bangzai will be talking to her about literature and its suitable adaptation.
Hello and welcome to the Odisha Lit Fest with Mira Nair, daughter of Odisha, very proud to have been born in Bhubaneswar and to have been raised there, and talks so beautifully of it, and I hope she'll talk a little about it today. But really, Mira has taught us to be Desi and to be global much before anyone else. I think when she made Salam Bombay, it opened the eyes of India, not just the world, but the eyes of India to what the possibility was. And as she says, look outside your window, the stories are all there. And she's always been one of the greatest storytellers we have. And it's such a proud moment for me to have her with us at the Odisha Lit Fest. Thank you, Mira. And we're here today to discuss A Suitable Boy. Again, a fantastic literary adaptation, which is so contemporary. So what do you want to go first with?
Well, I just want to say Odisha, always Odisha, because it's really a place in my heart that will never go away. And in fact, something I want to very much make a memoir or a story or of our growing up. I have to tell you one small correction. I was born in Rourkela.
Oh, really? Okay,
Rourkela, and then moved to Bhubaneswar, where I spent the next almost 18 years. So, but it is extraordinary. And to this day, some of my closest friends are from Orissa, and I'll never forget. So it's a great pleasure to speak to the Odisha Lit Fest, and I'm really just sorry that I'm not there physically myself, as I was just a year ago in February. Going with my brother to Puri, to Jagannath, to Konarak, and of course to Udyan Marg, which is number 8x5 Udyan Marg, the bungalow in which I lived. And a very similar bungalow is in The Suitable Boy, in the bungalow of Mahesh Kapoor. So this was my childhood and so much more. And I really am happy to speak at the Odisha Lit Fest with you, Kaveri. That was a double bonus, as I said.
Thank you so much, Mira. But really, A Suitable Boy is just so wonderful in how contemporary it all is even now, which is also, it's tragedy as well. It's triumph and it's tragedy, because all the schisms that you talk about, all the deep divisions that are there, are still very much alive. In fact, even in an uglier form. And the beauty about A Suitable Boy is really the love of words and the love of all words, English, Urdu. It's just so fantastic, the celebration of poetry and of prose. So talk a little about that. And because it's so, you've done 3 literary adaptations before, one almost, Shantaram. So that was like 4. So how is it to adapt this particular book?
Well, Vikram Seth gave us a complete cornucopia with A Suitable Boy. He has his finger on the pulse of the absolutely extraordinary idiosyncratic characters that make up our humanity in India, whether they be the anglicized lot who speak in rhyme and dream of Keats, or whether they are
champagne teas. I love that. And the smitten kitten about to be bitten. Oh, that's just fantastic.
That was one of my improvs, I must say,
Yeah, but it's
because
just brilliant.
yeah, it's just he has such joy about us as a people, as a very diverse people, and also of course his love of words and rhymes, and something that he has actually given me as a person in all his prose, right from before the Golden Gate to right through, so of course it was the love of the word, but in this case I must say the adaptation of A Suitable Boy had actually mostly happened by Andrew Davies and by the BBC, before I got involved. But I got involved pretty quickly after that. But it was budget constraints and so many other constraints because, we love our people, and we in India, we have, this is a great epic and so on. But in the Western world, in the international world, they still consider it radical to make a six-part series on just on a brown epic, on a saga that only has South Asians in it. So it's extraordinary that that still exists, and that will change. But right now, I was still fighting those battles. So I came in a little bit later into the already done adaptation that, thanks to Andrew and Vikram, they were very porous to my own suggestions. And my big major suggestion really was to restore it back to the language it came from, which was like have Hindustani where it is spoken, have Urdu where it is spoken, have Avdi where it is spoken. But that was also, every syllable was almost measured in how much I could bring back into it. But I was pleased, at least, that we had that sense of truth in it, um, and then the only other very big impact that I was trying for is to bring back the politics that's in the book, and the politics that is sadly raging in our country today, which the seeds of which are all in Vikram's story, in the novel. The creating of the temple in front of the mosques, the Hindu-Muslim divide, despite partition having just happened. These were such old, unbelievably beautiful, loyal friendships between, let's say, the Nawab of Bhaitar and Mahesh Kapoor, between their families, between their sons, the absolutely fluid intermingling of culture between, let's say, even Man Kapoor, the minister's son, and the courtesan Saida Bai. These were alliances that were, yes, frowned upon, but still very much part of daily life. So I wanted very much to reflect in the everyday politics of A Suitable Boy, the more than beyond everyday politics of today. Because it isn't Pride and Prejudice. It isn't who will Lata marry only. Lata, for me, and for a lot of us who made A Suitable Boy, Lata for me was the new India. Haresh Khanna is the self-made man who will self-make India, who will put shoes on every barefoot free Indian. So it was very important, that timeliness, what you called modern, was very important in all aspects of the design, of the clothing. I mean, even to restore every frame to being in handloom, which
Yes.
was the India I
Yeah,
grew up in,
yeah.
is just such a beautiful thing to do, and also a very tough thing to do. Occasionally, some gundas in Adidas, would just pop up in the frame with their garish blue brands across them, and I would say, "Aap kahan se aaye? Aapne hamare kapde kyun nahi pehne? Nikalo." So it's a reinvention to go back to the sort of, I guess you could call it a purity, to go back to that simplicity and that actual beauty of a life without advertisements, without hoardings, without those colors, a life that was deeply actually Indian,
Yes.
without us realizing or loving it as much. The refinement was extraordinary,
Yes.
when it was untarnished by modern life.
Absolutely. And everything that you've done, Meera, is so political, whatever you've made. Look at Mississippi Masala. I mean, you're talking about brown and black relationships. You can't even talk about it now without, some amount of resistance. And it's been so many years.
Yeah.
Or, the views in Monsoon Wedding. These are all deeply personal, but also very, very political movies. How important is it for you to have the politics of what you're doing right?
Oh, it's absolutely vital. I think that making films, making art, making anything should be and is a political act.
Yes,
It's all about the point of view one has.
right.
You can choose to silence a character, or you can choose to give that character body. I mean, another reference to A Suitable Boy is Mrs. Mahesh Kapoor, who is like the bedrock of this political family.
Right.
She's a devout, on the surface, like very traditional woman who obeys her husband and all of that, and does the puja and picks the flowers every morning. But she is the rock of this family that has mostly fought for freedom and was never there. She's the absentee parent for all. And yet, she was not really even given much of a line in all the hours of
Yeah,
Suitable Boy before I came in.
yeah,
But I think that these are the women who make our work and family work. And also, I was very moved by Vikram Seth dedicating the Hindi translation of A Suitable Boy to her.
yeah.
And I thought that's really something, that he regards her like I regarded her. And then I found this amazing actress, Geeta Agarwal Sharma, who
Mhm.
plays Mrs. Mahesh Kapoor. And with every frame, we amplified her role. We made her, engage in the same way that she does in the book, but on the frame. So that is political. That is political to literally give back the voice, to those that shape our destiny.
Yeah.
um, and with Mississippi Masala, I'm really happy to tell you that only today that we have resecured all the rights of this 30-year-old film,
Yeah.
which is hardly available anywhere.
Right.
And we've resecured all the rights, and we have just sold it into a re-release
Oh,
literally yesterday night. And it will come back very soon in a beautiful remastered version. And I think of it like, amongst other things, just in terms of the timeliness of Black Lives
absolutely.
Matter and Brown Lives
Matter.
Matter,
Yeah,
and in the anthem, really, to Kamala Davis, whom I hope will be
absolutely.
making history this week as the Vice President of the United States. I mean, she is like the daughter of Mina and Demetrius in
Yes.
Mississippi Masala. So I'm very happy that, I guess, Kaveri, it's a privilege to be making films that can still matter, decades later. It's a beautiful thing if I could bring it back and really make the young see it, because the young must see it, because it was radical when it came out in 30
Yeah.
years, and strangely enough, it's still radical.
Still radical, which is what
Yeah.
I find amazing. And of course, apart from the luscious Denzel Washington, just a
The
little
shirtless Denzel Washington.
added, added bonus. But really, Mira, even Salam Bombay for me and for so many others, it really is, what Slumdog Millionaire tried to do. It's just
Oh,
it's just that the world seemed to acknowledge it 20 years later. But
yeah,
and I think if we hadn't had Salam, we wouldn't have ever come to the point of Slumdog. But
yeah,
really, when you're looking at these stories and when you see how they play out, sometimes is it heartbreaking when it doesn't, although it did so well in 1988, it did
yeah,
so brilliantly. And you were really the toast of Hollywood, and you could have done whatever you wanted. Of
yeah,
course, you did whatever you wanted, but you could have done, the
yeah.
usual Hollywood stuff. But sometimes is it heartbreaking when the world doesn't quite recognize it at that moment, and then in retrospect it does.
I wouldn't. Yes, not heartbreaking is too intense, because you got to protect your heart, and you got to. I always say you have to have the heart of a poet and the skin of an elephant to do what I do. But it is. Used to sometimes sink into lament. That several reasons. One, that also being in New York, being in the international sort of sphere, um, it it seemed, even for other independent filmmakers like myself, it seemed, easier, much easier for them to cross over into what could be considered a mainstream, simply because they used to dream with people like in white universes where, let's say, you could cast a Kate Winslet or a Nicole Kidman or this or that, or a ticket to something that would be then seen more widely. I never thought like that, I never wanted to really think like that. I remember I'd made a actually wonderful film called Hysterical Blindness,
Yes.
for which was the white universe. I made it for Uma Thurman, who's a dear friend,
Yeah.
and asked me to do it, and kind of unwittingly, I mean, without thinking quite, I mean, I did it, and it's a wonderful film. But and I was joking, Juliette Lewis is in it, Jenna Rowlands and Ben Gazzara, people whom I love, from the Cassavetes films. I love actors, and I've fed on them. But I remember joking with Juliette Lewis, who ran into me 10 years later and said, Mira, when are you going to make another film with me? And I said, and I said, as soon as white people, begin to be interesting to me, I'll come right back to you. But I definitely felt, right from the beginning that, well, it's a slogan I say a lot: if we don't tell our own stories, no one else will. And if they tell them for us, they'll bugger them up. So we, we and that's what. So I guess that does define where I go, in the gravitation. And sometimes, because of the way we were raised on so much literature, on so much Russian books, and so much English, Vanity Fairs and so on. Sometimes when these adaptations or these books come along that really had meant something to me in my childhood, I say yes, and I enter that world as fluidly as an Indian world. But it is true that I'm drawn to our own, to our own dilemmas and to our own struggles, and especially to our music and to our, and to our poetry, which is limitless in its depth. And I feel like I've only just begun in that exploration.
And Saida Bai really is the epitome of all that. And she represents Begum Akhtar, and all that she carries with her. Talk a little about the magnificent Taboo. This is,
Oh,
you worked with her for the second time, and she was so brilliant in The Namesake as well. Talk a
yes.
little about her.
Well, Tabu Jan, it's her birthday just a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to my really piece of my Dil Ka Tukra. She is absolutely extraordinary. In in that she actually contains a mystery. She actually contains a mystery, the way that Marlene Dietrich did, or the way the greats have, where she doesn't reveal everything, and she chooses to reveal when she reveals, and at the same time has such a accomplished sense of craft that she knows what each jhalak, each glance would do, um, and laced with all that is a comic timing that is absolutely unimitable, inimitable. She's a great cackler in private. She cackles and
Yeah.
laughs, and we have a very girly relationship in private, in the sense that we love, design, we love fabric, we love dressing up, and we,
And Raw Mango.
and sometimes raw mango, and sometimes just rasta kamal, sometimes badla ornis. I mean, we just enjoy aesthetics very, very much, beautifully. But mostly the depth of her emotion and the lack of showiness.
Yeah.
There is no falsity in Tabu, on and off screen. And and I really think, she can pretty much do anything. Although she was there was no other Saida Bai. I mean, she was the epitome of Saida Bai in terms of the ada, the whole culture, the whole grace, and the wiliness, even, and the mischief, all of it. But I could work with her every, again and again and again, and each time I'm sure she would reveal something new. And I just think she's a real treasure for our country, and for our cinema.
So, Meera, where are you now at? I believe that there's an Amrita Shergill biopic, which is on the way. I hope it is true because I think she's a fantastic character. You've also talked about perhaps making a series on the refugees, on the urban migrants, which is again a fantastic idea. What are you looking at? What has this period been like for you? Just soaking in, of course, the appreciation for Suitable Boy as well. And what are you currently working on?
I am currently working on two or three things, but the thing I'm immediately involved with is a screenplay that a wonderful French-Hungarian writer Clara Royer is writing on Amrita Shergill, produced by a young and Punjabi producer here in New York, Samudrika Arora, who I've teamed up with. Yeah, we are deep in it. I'm in my study in New York, and I'm surrounded by. This is her father, Umrao Shergill, and his photographs, and everything that she has done, paintings and so on. But Amrita Shergill is an hugely unsung and incredibly iconoclastic, greatest modernist Indian painter
Hmm.
of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. She died tragically young, and in her work has, emblazoned literally all my films since Salam Bombay. And
Exactly.
I make these lookbooks for my films before we begin, and in every one of them you will see Amrita's paintings. She's taught me about framing, about color, about graphic design. She's And the bravery of how she sees our own country, um, and and so yeah, it's a long time coming. And yeah, so we are deep in it, and I'm hoping that the COVID situation will allow us to shoot next year, and I'm praying it will. um, that's the first thing that I'm doing, but also we've just putting in all the finishing touches of this big grand 12-year work I've been doing of the Monsoon Wedding stage musical.
Right, right.
Yeah. And now it's all done. It's really in great shape. And 21 new songs Vishal Bhardwaj made, and such an amazing group of actors. And it's really got that, um, the heart expanding and squeezing emotion of Monsoon Wedding, the film.
Right.
And it's all live, great, singers, dancers, actors. And finally, we were going to open in London this year, which was shut down by COVID. But now we're going to open more appropriately in India first,
Oh,
in the
really?
spring. Yes, in
Oh,
the spring of
okay.
2022.
Okay.
That is to say, March of 2022, and then bring it to the Western world and the Eastern world. But first, where it's first at its roots, where it really began, which is India. And so that's the other big project. And then in 2022, I'll start Jungle Prince of Delhi, which is this big Amazon series
Okay.
on the extraordinary true story that was written about in the New York Times by Ellen Barry. This story of
Oh,
the
yes.
Empress of Awadh, the Vilayat, who
Right.
declared herself the Empress of Awadh, and settled herself in the New Delhi railway station with her
Yeah.
sons and with her children and her dogs for 10 years until
Yeah.
Indira gave her Indira Gandhi gave her this hunting lodge in the middle of
Yeah.
Delhi where she lived and died.
That's
Um, it's this great sort of
it's
operatic, almost
mad. Yeah,
fantasy,
it's a
mad,
mad story.
mad
Fantastic story.
story about post-traumatic disorder, diaspora, Brexit. I mean, the whole global upheaval that happened
Right.
right from the independence struggle before that to now. And so my plate is pretty full,
I'm so
and
happy.
yeah.
Streaming services have really changed the game, haven't they?
Yes, they
For
have.
filmmakers all over the world, for actors,
Yes.
filmmakers.
Yes, they have. And also they've changed distribution,
Yes.
because theatrical distribution hardly exists at the moment,
Yeah.
sadly, for at least this year or two. And so therefore streaming is amazing, and it's unbelievably democratic, because
Yeah.
like with the Suitable Boy, I think the amount of response I'm getting from all over the world, it's like they probably in one screening, more people have seen that than have seen many of my films put together, just because of the accessibility of them. So I'm happy about that, and also that it gives us the opportunity to make long form cinema, to make 6 hour long films, 8 hours, whatever. So I'm intrigued by that.
Right. What upset you most about leaving anything out of Suitable Boy? Did you have to leave something out which you really, really wanted to keep? I missed Jawaharlal Nehru's entry, actually. I was just waiting for the actual, you of course have it in footage, documentary footage,
Yes.
but the way it's described in the book is so wonderful, and it's so Nehru. It just
Yes.
sort of,
Well,
I
I'll put him in Amrita Shergill because he was a great
please.
friend of hers.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yes. Oh yes.
was it a Lady Edwina kind of thing?
No, no. I mean, I think many people wanted it to be, but it wasn't. It was a friendship, and it was a great admiration of each other.
One,
He loved her art, and he wanted her to paint his portrait, and she said that she would. He was too beautiful for her to paint him. That she goes. She went for much more for people who are much more twisted and and not as open as he was. But I in Suitable Boy, actually, I missed doing more with Haresh Khanna's life and with Bhaskar's life, the young boy. That because I miss how Haresh, learns that Bhaskar has a mathematical instinct and introduces him to Kabir's father, Professor Durrani, who is a math prof at the university.
yeah,
And it is because Harish takes the little boy to Professor Durrani that Kabir recognizes this child.
yeah,
And then in the riot, when the child is almost dead,
yeah.
saves him. He knows that this is Bhaskar from Lata's family. I loved Professor Durrani, and it was a special love because I wanted to cast my own husband, who is a professor
Oh,
and who
yes.
looks
Who would
who
have
looks
been
dashing.
perfect? Yeah, very dashing.
but I loved that Harish was that person who connected people,
Yeah,
and I loved that part. But you have to kill your darlings in 6 hours. What to do? uh, there were several things we could have done, but it honestly was a question of either this way of Suitable Boy or no Suitable Boy.
right.
And these are decisions you make for the, I hope, larger good,
But
then.
I love the Chatterjees. I mean, they're my all-time favorites. I'm so glad there's
Yeah.
so much of it there. But
Yeah.
also because Harish and Lata are actually Vikram Seth's parents, isn't
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can see the love that I mean, it makes perfect sense why she chose him and why he chose her, and I think
That
that
for
is
me, knowing Vikram's
yeah,
parents a little bit as I had done, uh, gave me the strength to see, and even the vision, in fact, to think of how to present them, not just as a settlement of
yeah,
Lata,
yeah,
but more the self-made new Indian man,
yes,
of Harish, and also knowing them and seeing the depth of their relationship, over so many years, and their children and their family. There was a great joy and sense, actually, in bringing that to life, because I trusted that that decision was superbly the correct one.
yeah. I remember reading reviews of the final season where they said, "Oh, she's gone with him. Oh, what a tragedy!" But it's not about that. It's
Yeah.
really it's so much more. But I
I-
think the West becomes quite focused on the romantic
yeah.
angle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's a very Austinian thing.
Yeah. 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 They are used to that. Will she or won't she? And
Right,
who will she?
right.
Um, but for me, it was just part of the larger fabric, and also a real charm in it. Absolutely a charm in it. This I just and the chemistry between Namit Das, who plays Harish
Yes,
Khanna, and Tanya Maniktala,
yes,
who plays Lata, is just you can feel it. It's
Pops off
perceptible.
the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to use that. The film I kept thinking of when I was shooting those scenes on the train station and inside the compartment was The Householder, the
Yes.
Merchant Ivory film, with Leela
Mira
Naidu.
Nair and Shashi.
Yeah,
Oh,
and Shashi, and I just loved that, that the feeling that our life is ahead of us. This is just the beginning. That feeling I wanted to capture in
yeah.
those scenes.
And I think that's what one misses in the India of today. You spent so much time here, while you were shooting this. That joy, that simplicity, that elegance,
Mhm.
somewhere we've lost that. Apart
Yeah,
from, of course, losing the love for words, I think
yeah,
our language has become so muddied and so dirty and so
yeah,
crude.
yeah,
But when you look at the India of today, sometimes don't you feel, is this the country that I
yeah.
left so many years ago and I still love so much because you keep coming back and you
No,
haven't
actually,
really given up your Indianness at all?
no, no. And in fact, we have a new home in Nizamuddin East in
Oh,
Delhi.
nice.
As of 2, 3 years ago, that's where I've been living, and I've actually spent 2, 3 years straight making Suitable there, and then just came back this year with the lockdown.
Yeah.
I just happened because we were editing in London, and
By the way,
so
congratulations, your son won the election. So
amazing.
you raised him right.
We both did.
Yes.
Mahmood and I, we are very happy and we are very, thank you. He's really the ray of, he and his socialist pals who have all won 5 seats in the
Yeah.
assembly. Um, I really feel a sense that change is going to come,
Yeah.
because they're going to make it. They are very open about that and they have been voted in. So it's great.
I think it's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. So very much I'm as soon as the lockdown can make me travel, I'm returning in January to spend the rest of the year there. So I'm very much, especially as I get older, wanting to be home in Delhi.
Right.
My family is there and I don't regard myself, I mean, I'm still an Indian citizen. It's
Right.
strange during the election that I cannot vote here. But it's because I've never given up my citizenship in India. And anyway, so I will be returning very soon, and all my films, everything that I'm doing actually is
Telling
based at
our
home.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and but I do I haven't given up on our amazing, diverse, plural country. It is disheartening. It's terribly disheartening sometimes, but it is the wave of nationalism across the bloody world that is, you know, that is kind of stoking each other almost. So it's no different here in terms of look at what we're seeing. Uh, I continue to see the hope in humanity though, and I long for it to come back. Yeah, I have, yeah, I need it. It's like oxygen a bit.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mira Nair. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. And please continue to tell our stories the way you do,
Thank you.
brilliantly, colorfully, engagingly, and outstandingly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaveri. Thank you, Odisha. I wish to come home soon to Bhubaneswar.
We hope you enjoyed this session. If you would like to know more about OLF 2020 or watch other videos, please visit newindianexpress.com and eventexpress.com. If you are more of a social media person, please visit our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels.